Okay, hi year 12. We're gonna do a few videos between now and the exam, looking at exam questions and probably some questions also from the exercise book. And this is the M1 June 2011 paper. So I wanted to start with question 1, and the ideal here scenario for you would be, I think, if you pause the video before I go on and do the question and you give a bash to the question yourself. Try to do it with some speed, as if you were sitting the real exam, and then if you get stuck, then play the video, play it until the place which you got stuck, allow it to help you to get unstuck, and then try to continue on your own. If you get stuck again, then watch the rest of the question and so forth. Okay, but try to get as little help from the video as you can as you're doing these questions. I think that will be the best way for you, and if you're completely lost with a question, then obviously see the whole thing and then take notes on whatever it is that was causing problems when you were trying to do the question yourself. Okay, so let's get going with the first one. First one is a projectiles question. It says at time t equals 0 a ball is projected vertically upwards from a point O and rises to a maximum height of 40 meters above O. So I'm gonna draw that here. This is question 1. You have a ball here at point O and it's projected upwards. We don't know the speed, but it reaches 40 meters above O, so it reaches up here at 40 meters. That's the maximum height. Show that the speed of projection is 28 meters per second. That's 3 marks. Okay, so that hopefully should be okay. We're saying that the initial velocity is what we're looking for. We know that s is equal to 40, and final velocity at the top is going to be 0, and we need one more item, and that's going to be gravity, which we tend to know in projectiles equations is minus g. Minus, since the gravity is in the opposite direction to the initial velocity. That's where the negative comes from. So what equation has s, u, v and a and doesn't have any t's? This one. Okay, so here we're going to find out u, so we rearrange. It's equal to v squared minus 2as, but v is 0, so we have minus 2as. A is negative, so that's going to be 2 times 9.8 positive. The negative cancels the a with this minus, and then times 40 meters. And that comes out to be just have to put my calculator out. That was 784.8, and that is taking this as 9.81, and the square root of the answer then is 28.0 meters per second, and that is what we were asked to show. So that part was fine, part 1a. Hopefully that'll be easy for you. Find the times in seconds when the ball is 33.6 meters above O. And notice the plural here. Times has a reason. There are 2 times at which the ball is at that height, 33.6 meters, right? It's going up 40 meters. So it's going to be at this time, and then when it comes back down, it's going to be again at some other time. Those 2 times we're trying to look for. I'm going to call them T1 and T2. And hopefully you can see that that comes out of a quadratic. You can solve it by using this guy here. S is equal to ut plus half at squared. So that's a quadratic, and in order to get it into quadratic form, we should do this. Half at squared plus ut minus s is equal to 0. Okay, now we have it in terms of ax squared plus bx plus c, which is a normal quadratic. So what are these values? Well, half a is just half times 9.81 times the t squared plus u we just found out before was 28 times t minus s, and s is what was it? 33.6 meters. 33.6 meters. So if we solve this using the quadratic equation, we'll get two values for t. So let's use the quadratic equation, which you should know from C1 and C2 and so forth. So t is equal to minus b plus minus square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Don't know why that says win. Okay, it's gone. Minus b, so b is 28, so that's going to be minus 28 plus minus square root of 28 squared minus 4 times a, which is half of 9.81. So I'm just going to write 2 because the half times 4 is 2, and then 9.81 times c, and c is minus 33.6, so this turns into a plus, and we have here 33.6, and everything divided by 2a. A is half of 9.81, meaning that 2a is going to be 9.81 without the half. Do this in the calculator. What do we get? Way to do these long things in the calculator is always to try to do the from inside out. So I would work out this first, for example, and write that down. So what is that? 9.81 times 2 times 33.6. So that's 659.232 exactly. So I write it like that because it's exact. And to that I need to add 28 squared. And actually I'm going to make sure that I don't make any mistakes, and instead of 28 I'm going to use the square root of this. So that's 2.91 times 40, and the square root of that, 28.01 something something something. So here I remind myself of that by adding some points like that, which I know the number is longer. Now I've got the full number in the calculator, I square that, and it comes out to the reverse of the other thing, so I didn't really need to do that. 784.8, right, plus that, minus 28 plus minus that, divided by 2a, which is 9.81. Okay, and we're looking for times here, and it's interesting because I've just noticed that when I added the half a here, this should have been a negative. So that's a mistake that's important, because now if we look at that negative, right, I can put it in here instead of putting it in there. Okay, that negative in there is really important because it means that now when I have a minus 4ac, actually I'm going to have an extra negative here. I have an extra negative here, and the bottom of this thing here is also going to be negative. Okay, the bottom here is going to be negative from the 2a, right? Because the a itself is the number. Don't confuse that a with the other a, right? This a is just whatever's in front of the t squared. So that whole half a, that's a. And if that's negative, then at the bottom here, that's going to be negative. Okay, why does that help? Because here I was about to get a negative time. I was going to get minus 28 minus a positive number divided by a positive number. I would have had a negative time, and that would have been incorrect or anti-natural. So that's how I discovered that I made that mistake. Hopefully you can track those things up. If you see that you're going to get a negative time, you probably missed a negative, and it tends to be the one in gravity. So we should get now hopefully two positive values. What happens when we do minus 28 plus this number here? So hopefully this number here is, when you take the square root, is smaller than 28, so even when you add it to minus 28 you still get a negative, and then when you divide by a negative you get a positive. So let's have a look at what's inside of the bracket. We have 784.8 minus 659.232, and these are all exact numbers. I haven't rounded up anything yet. The square root of the answer is 11.2057. So I'm going to write it like that. Minus 28 plus minus square root of 11.2057, etc. And I'm going to memorize that number. Shift store A. And that's going to be divided again by minus 9.81. And that's lucky, because if you look at that, sorry, I actually took the square root, so now I don't need to write the square root again. I took the root of the difference between them. So I don't need the root, I already took it. And so here we have minus 28 plus that, right? So minus 28 plus the answer is minus 16, which is good, because then when I divide it by minus 9.81 I get positive 1.7 seconds. 1.7 seconds. That's for one of my t's, so I'm going to call that t1, and t2 would be minus 28 minus 11. So minus 28 minus memory recall divided by 9.81 negative, and that's 3.996, so that's 4 seconds. 4 seconds. Okay, and just in case you don't trust me too much, then the mark scheme is around here. You can see here it is 1.7 seconds or 4 seconds. Those are your two answers, and 1.7 and 4 seconds is what we have, so that's good news. Okay, so let's zoom out here a little bit and have a look at what we've done. They asked us for 2 times, and so I said, well, this is a quadratic equation, so I can move things around and form a quadratic in this form here, which is y is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c, where y is 0, that when you want to find the roots, then you make this 0, right? But they tell us a value for essentially this s here, that's your c, and all of that is your ax squared plus bx. So I move the c to the other side, then I have here a 0, and I know what the c should be. So solving this with the y is equal to 0 is the same as solving all of this when you pass that to the other side. Okay, hopefully that process makes sense and you feel confident doing it. Whenever they ask you for 2 times in a problem like that, it's because there's a time on the one way, and then it goes up, and then it comes back down, and then there's a time there on the way back. And that you can find by timing, by using this equation. But generally I don't recommend using this equation for finding the time of other questions when they don't ask you for both, when they just ask you for one of them. I recommend you use one of the other equations with t, like v is equal to u plus at, for example. Okay, alright, so let's go on and do the second question in the next video so that these don't get too long and too tedious. Alright, take care.